This is Adam Eliel Berkowitz. I'm here with Zach Bauer. He has just taken the helm of an amazing organization, amazing program called Passages. And unfortunately, I'm afraid that a lot of people aren't familiar with it. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to something that's going on that everyone should know about, Christians and Jews and everyone who loves Israel. So, Zach, um, explain to me what is Passages?
Adam, well, thanks for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it. Well, as we were saying before we went on, Passages was, you know, essentially the equivalent of a Christian birthright. So we would send college-age Christian students on a 9-day trip to Israel to, have them be exposed to the roots of their faith and grow in their walk with Jesus Christ. And when they come back from the trip, it really is a life-changing experience. And one of the reasons why I was drawn to Passages in the first place to be their next CEO was because when I was right after high school, my family went on a trip to Passages. So I kind of consider I went on a trip to Israel. So I kind of consider myself a Passages student before there was a Passages because the trip my family and I went on really was a life-changing experience and for me personally. I'd never felt closer to God in that moment, and I learned more about Israel and the Jewish people and the history and the connection between our two great religions, more so than I'd ever had in my entire life. And it's that experience that really kind of made me appreciate what Passages does and the profound impact it can have on college-age kids and their own personal lives. So I'm very excited to be the CEO of Passages, and it's a huge honor to lead them in this next phase of their growth.
So, as a young Christian, what was the first thing you saw in Israel that you were like, "Wow, this is my faith. This is my Christianity here."
Actually, it was the going to the Sea of Galilee was actually incredible to me. I was just seeing the different sites there, the Church of the Beatitudes, and it's just a beautiful scenery, and in general, it's just really a that really left a mark on me personally. And but the as you know, I mean, Israel is an incredible nation. It's just so much the people, the culture. It really is fascinating, and it just really struck me as soon as we landed in Tel Aviv. I was like, wow, this place is awesome, and it lived up to the hype and the expectations. And I've been back several times since, and each time I've enjoyed my time tremendously.
I mean, by the way, you can see the Sea of Galilee from my backyard. Um,
Oh, wow. All right.
yeah, and it's actually it's the winter time right now, so when it rains, you can hear the water flowing down to the Galilee, right through my city, right through my town.
Gosh,
It's
I'll have
it's
to get
really
up there
very
sometime and
special.
visit you.
You are more than welcome, as long as you drink coffee.
Of
Okay.
course, yeah. Miss several a day, don't worry.
We do that coffee thing up here.
Uh,
Yeah, I think one of the amazing things is, as you mentioned, there are places that you read about in both the Old and the New Testament. Um, you're not, they're not showing you postcards. You're walking around in the real deal.
mhm.
It affects
No, you're
you.
absolutely right. It's a yeah, literally, I mean, walking in the footsteps of Jesus and seeing all of the Garden of Gethsemane, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Western Wall. It's just the history comes to life, and it was just a profoundly impactful experience for me, and it really helps me appreciate the mission that we have here at Passages and just how much of a life-changing experience it can have on a young Christian's life if they have that opportunity to go to Israel and see it for themselves.
It can only make you stronger in your faith. That's
Exactly.
that's all it
Exactly.
can do. You're taking over at a very interesting time. I think it can be either a very powerful time or it can be a time when it's not so powerful because, as we know, there's been a war going on,
Mhm.
and a lot of people have stayed away because of the war. When was the last time you were here?
I actually haven't been back in 5 years, but I'm going back in March, so
You
soon.
better, you better. Um, 5 years. A lot of people have not been here for a very long time because we got the double whammy of COVID, um, serious travel problems then, especially if you didn't want to get vaccinated. Or even
Mhm.
if you did want to get vaccinated, it was difficult to travel. Then right after that, the war. And unfortunately, a lot of airlines decided that Israel was not good for them,
Hmm.
which was horrible. So it has been a long stretch.
Hmm.
But I've always felt that tourism to Israel is a different class because people don't come to Israel because they want to. They come to Israel because they have to. It's,
That's That's a good way of putting it. No, you're absolutely right. So, yeah, to your point, since the last several years, passages have really had to adapt and meet the moment with COVID, and like you said, with the war, we really had to make some adjustments and in the past year, especially after what we saw happening on college campuses across the United States and the anti-Semitism and anti-Israel rhetoric that was being spewed, we really took a turn toward advocacy and our advocacy team grew exponentially. Um, we had events impacting over 16,000 students across the country, and I was really proud of the team for adapting to meet the moment and to push back against some of the nonsense we were hearing on some of these college campuses. And but to your point now that travel is slowly but surely beginning coming returning to normalcy, we're going to continue to have the focus on the advocacy side of things and on our trip operations. And this year alone, our goal is to have upwards of 700 kids come back to Israel this year. We have several buses coming in March, and then throughout the summer, that's our biggest season, and we have buses filling up now. And our recruitment team was just telling me earlier this week that the desire and the energy to get back to Israel is there amongst college kids and amongst some of the schools and partners that we've been working with in the past. And a lot of times they'll make these presentations to schools and to partners, and they'll have question and answer Q&A at the end of the presentation. And in the past year or so, a lot of the Q&A had focused around the war and security, and recently, the last couple of weeks, they've told me that the questions that a lot of these folks are asking are totally unrelated to the war and safety concerns. And it's more just logistical questions. Where are we staying? Flights, that kind of thing. And it's people are they're itching to get back. To your point, they want to get back to Israel. We're excited to get back to Israel, and I think it's going to be a great year ahead for us and for Israel.
it's wow. I'm glad to hear that. You mentioned advocacy
Mhm.
as one of your goals. I'll be really candid with you. I'm an older guy, a lot, a lot older than you. And though we always and I've never ever experienced anything like the anti-Semitism that I see around the world today. I think
Mhm.
it's unprecedented, um, and it reminds me of the Middle Ages. It reminds me of pre-war Nazi Germany. I mean, you have people in the streets screaming to kill Jews, literally. They're using nice terms like intifada and things like that. From the river to the sea doesn't leave too much room for us to live. Um, and the only difference I can see between what's happened, well, there are two major differences between what's happening now and what happened in pre-war Germany. One is um, if you come to mess with me, I've got the IDF in my backyard. So, so they're not gonna. And the other is in World War II, we were, for the most part, except for a few exceptions, we were alone.
Mhm.
And now I meet people like you, and I'm going to try not to cry, but
Mhm.
it's a very powerful experience that once again we're faced with this horrible evil that's accompanied us throughout the exile. And the difference is this time we have allies, we have brothers, and I think that's what you're building. You're building brothers for the Jewish people at a time when we seriously need them, when it's really a matter of life and death. So,
No,
so
you're absolutely right. It's so our trips, there's the goals are twofold. One, we want our students to, grow in their faith and understand the roots of their faith. But at the same time, we want them to grow in their support for Israel and the Jewish people, and having that exposure to Israel, um, personally, it really has a incredible impact. And we've seen that students are much more willing to, when they come home after a trip to Israel, to speak out in defense of Israel and against anti-Semitism because they know the truth. They've been to Israel. They know what it's like. They know what they're being told on their campuses is not true, and they can tell others that absolutely this is actually wrong what you're being told. I was at Israel. I was in Israel several months ago, and
Right.
what you're hearing here from this professor is absolutely inaccurate.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
just
like
having that knowledge.
anyone who comes here after 10 minutes, they know there's no apartheid here.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's essentially what some of these professors are telling students, and
Yeah.
sadly, they're having a receptive audience in some cases, and it's going to be an uphill climb trying to educate and inform a lot of these students who haven't had the benefit of going to Israel themselves. But it's a challenge, and there's a lot of urgency involved. We have a lot of work to do, but I'm excited to be a part of this going forward. So thank you.
I remember right after October 7th, the American Jews were very much kind of in shock.
Mhm.
And they couldn't react right away. And I remember the first major rally that took place in Washington, D.C. There were a lot of Christians there.
Mhm.
And they told me that they actually had to form groups and surround Jews who had to go to the stage because they were being threatened by anti-Israel people who were trying to stop them from going to the stage. And I think the Jews probably could have fought their way through or something, um, but just feeling that you're alone for a Jew is the first sign that something horrible is going to happen. And when they had allies, they were able to gather the strength to react. So
Mhm.
sometimes that's all that's needed is to let them know you're not alone on this. It's a very important thing. Uh,
No, you're absolutely right. And it's hard to believe that we're talking about this kind of thing in the year 2025. And
yeah,
you would have thought that after October 7th, how is this even possible? How are how are some people out there still that believe some of this nonsense? And it's uh it's alarming. But you're absolutely right. It helps us realize just how important the work and the mission that we have. And we're excited about the challenge, and we're excited to get our students back over to Israel and have them grow in their faith and to come back and stand up and defend Israel on their college campuses and in their communities. So.
thank God. And we're living in very special times. As a Torah observant Jew who a bit on the mystical side on my good days, um, we're living in very special times. This is the time that counts when we're just on the threshold of the world getting together and saying God is one and his name is one. And if you're
Mhm.
not here for that, you're going to miss out on something you don't want to miss out on.
Mhm.
That's what I report on. Those are my news articles.
Okay.
Um, okay, so these are the questions that Israel 365 wanted to ask from Zach Bauer.
All right.
So, what drew you to take on the role of CEO of Passages, and what vision do you have for the organization's future?
Yeah, so kind of back to what I mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity as a high school graduate to go on a trip to Israel myself with my family, and this was before Passages was even created, obviously. But I kind of consider myself a Passages student in that regard, in the sense that having a trip to Israel changed me in profound ways, both personally and professionally. It helped me understand the unique relationship between Israel and the United States, and specifically between Christians and Jews. And after college, I went into work for then Congressman Mike Pence, and for the next 15 years, I served him in a variety of capacities when he was governor of Indiana, vice president of the United States, and he's been one of the most outspoken advocates for Israel and the Jewish people throughout his
Yes,
career. So having that connection of a personal connection to Israel and after a trip there as a college day student, and then the background that I have professionally working in public policy and advocacy, really drew me to Passages, just because of current events, what we're dealing with here in the United States, what Israel has gone through since October 7th. And I wanted to try to lend my support in any way that I could. And when I heard of this opening and heard of Passages, I thought, what better way to help support Israel, support Christian college kids in their walk with Christ than to lead a distinguished organization like Passages. And I'm just incredibly honored to be here and to lead this group. And going forward, we're like I said, we're obviously going to continue to be focused on the advocacy side, even though our trips are running up and running again here. But we want to, select students who are going to come back from a trip and be pro-Israel advocates in their communities and in their college campuses. And after that, we want them to be impactful in their careers. So we want these kids to be in spheres of influence, whether that's in public policy, on Capitol Hill, and think tanks, in journalism and communications and other fields. We want to help them get placed in careers where they can have an outsized voice. And we want our passages kids, to make a difference in the United States and in Israel policy going forward. So I'm really excited about the challenge. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, but we can do it. I'm confident in our team, and I'm just grateful to be here and lead them, in the months and hopefully years ahead.
You're jumping in on a growth industry. Um, I mentioned Mike Pence. I remember when he came to Israel and spoke in front of the Knesset. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, I sometimes when I go through these speeches, I count how many times they quote the Bible, how many times they mention the name of God. He was definitely up there. It was and I mean even like Mike Pompeo, he was so excited about connecting with Israel. Um,
Hmm.
People made a big thing about Pete Hegseth, which is with his tattoo of a
Hmm.
Jerusalem cross. A Jerusalem cross was a soldier's way of saying, I've done the ultimate as a soldier. I've come to Jerusalem. And he it's it's really, I think that's where the battle is. That's kind of like the focus of the other side, as you, if you want to call them that. That
Hmm.
they're not, it's not a political thing, it's a God thing.
Hmm.
And to be really honest, I just see, since I've been reporting on it, the Christian Jewish connection, the Christian Israel connection is just growing by leaps and bounds.
Hmm.
It's growing in strength, in numbers, in depth, and it's really it's very inspiring for me. So I think you're definitely in on a growth industry.
I hope you're
Oh,
right. That's encouraging to hear, though. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
yeah, I mean, I write about it, and 8 years ago, 9 years ago, people were saying I was crazy. The flip side, the flip side of COVID and the war and what's been happening in the world is when things get this crazy, people don't ask anymore. They know that something special is happening, and they're
Hmm.
getting ready for it.
Hmm.
Okay, so my boss wanted to know, which biblical sites have you found the most transformative for connecting Christian students to Israel's ancient heritage?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't gone on one of our passages trips yet. My first one is in March. So I can.
So where do you want to take them?
So where do I want to? Well, right now I can pull up hold on one of our latest itinerary that we have for this trip in March. But for me personally, like I said earlier, the sites around the Sea of Galilee were incredibly
Mhm.
impactful for me.
The whole
Garden of
north of
Gethsemane.
Israel is where Christianity began,
Yeah,
with the Jesus movement. The whole
it
north of
was
Israel.
yeah, no, it's I mean there's so many to choose from, but one of our so yeah, we go to Nazareth, the Mount of Beatitudes, Capernaum up in the Galilee area.
Mhm.
Um, go to Temple Mount, obviously.
You do
Mount of
go to the
Olives.
Temple Mount.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Walk where Jesus walked.
Yeah. Visit the southern steps of the Temple Mount and the site Jesus overturned the money changers' tables.
Yeah.
The Mount of Olives, Garden of Gethsemane, the Via Dolorosa. The Via Dolorosa was very powerful experience when I visited there after high school. But there's just so many to choose from,
There
and
is.
and
It's
the 9 day tour that we do with our students, we take them everywhere. So as you can tell, it's a lot
God,
to choose.
Israel's not spread out. You can go to
Yeah,
everywhere in 9 days. You just got to be really quick on your feet.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it's like if you go and see if you're with a checklist and you're checking things off, you're probably not going to have an experience. An experience is when you go there and you see something you didn't expect to see. And I've seen
Hmm.
that an awful lot. It's not your normal tourism.
Hmm.
So it can be an amazing. I mean, the prayer experience, praying in Israel, is
Hmm.
entirely different. It's a local call and not a long distance call. I've seen people.
I love
I've
that.
also I remember I wrote an article about brackish ponds on the shore of the Dead Sea that were filling up with fish. That's a prophecy. And you can see it in front of your eyes. It's like there's a lot of prophecy you can see happening right in front of your eyes. It's really
Yeah.
special. And like you said, go where Jesus went.
Yeah, there's no place like it on earth. And to your point, like because it's it's a 9 day trip, we don't want it to be a check it off the list type of thing. Like we want people to be able to take their time, enjoy their experience at the different sites. We don't have to rush them through it, because it just we want them to be able to have the most impactful time they possibly can while they're there. And if you rush through it and try to squeeze as many things as you can in one day, it just they all start blending together, and it just doesn't become as a special and unique experience as it could be. I think as if you don't really appreciate it, take your time, and meditate, pray, is
Yeah, sure,
all kinds of things.
sure.
So,
If I can throw in a word of advice,
mhm.
Israelis love we're so proud of our country, and we're so proud that people come to see it. So if you try to connect to Israelis, no, usually you'll find an open smile, a person who wants to connect. The soldiers, they're young. I don't know if they're intimidating. We've got those yucky old uniforms that have been through a bunch of wars. But these people are very proud of what they're doing, and this young generation, they're doing amazing things. So connecting with the people is at least as important as connecting with the places, in my opinion, and hopefully people are open to that. Um,
Yeah, since October 7th, one of the days actually that we have in our itinerary is a volunteer day where we'll have our students
wow,
go to a local community and work with organizations that have been impacted by October 7th. And some of the students have come back and said that that may have been one of their favorite, if not best days
sure.
on the trip, just because of the um, just how powerful it was being able to really make a difference in some of these Israelis' lives and helping them and their communities rebuild.
For
So
sure. I mean, it's
we're
Israel's
continuing to keep up.
still very deeply affected.
Mhm.
I mean, we're still at war, and knowing that we're not alone, knowing that there are people who care, is very very important to us.
Mhm.
So for sure. Okay, so how does Passages integrate biblical prophecy and modern Israel into its educational program? What's your vision for deepening this connection? So you guys are into biblical prophecy being seen in the world today?
Well, leading up to our trips, our students go through a pre-trip education course. That's more focused on current events, what's been going on the ground, geography, different types of things like that. And um, but on the trips themselves, we have chaplains on each of our buses who um, help explain the certain sites, where they're going, and they can provide some of their expertise in explaining the different the history surrounding each of the locations that we're going. And then after the trips, we have post trip, a capstone where our students are asked about their experience, what they like the most, what could we do better on our trips, what was the most impactful experience they had while they were there, and continuing to evolve our trips pre-trip, during the trip, and post-trip. We want it to be as the best and most impactful it possibly can be for our students. So it's a work in progress, but right now I think we have a great curriculum, great education that that we've had to adjust since October 7th, and make it relevant, and make it you know, relevant to the trips upcoming here. And our team has done a fantastic job in ensuring that happens. So,
Do you guys go down south?
the farthest we go is right now, the farthest
Do you go near Gaza? Do
we go,
another thing. People don't realize how big Israel is. It's
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, and then if you all you have to do is look at a map, and if you don't look at a map to see Gaza, you don't understand. Gaza is right smack in the center of Israel. It's not. It's a big chunk taken out of Israel. It's not a neighboring country. And when you realize how small Israel is, you get an idea that this is a problem. it's not,
Yeah.
it's
I'm always struck when people are, yeah, the size of Israel, and people are saying, oh, it's about the size of the state of New Jersey. And it's like, New Jersey, you can drive through in 3 hours here. It's not a big area.
I I rode my bicycle from the Hermon to Eilat when
Oh,
I was much younger,
gosh.
when I was about 35 years old. It only took 3 days, and I was not in shape. It is so not a big country. And
That's
it's funny when
impressive though. 3 days only. That's good still.
I pushed myself hard. I was with some young guys. We had a
Uh-huh.
blast, but it's just like, really, you go from the Hermon to Eilat, it's 3 days, and that's the very very north to the very very south. And if you go from east to west, I've walked that in 3 days.
Oh
It's
my.
it's that small, but it's so packed. It's like so much happened here in the Bible, in history, and so much is going to happen here in the end of days. It's good to get to know the place.
Hmm.
Um, I write about prophecy in the news,
Oh,
and
really?
these days there just isn't enough. There aren't enough hours in the day to write about prophecy in the news. Um, and when you start talking to mystical rabbis, it's just off the charts. That we are definitely in the middle of Gog and Magog. We're definitely coming up on the on the end of days. So it's really okay. So let me see. Okay. Um, Israel 365 News has been working closely with Generation Zion to strengthen young Christian support for Israel. Would you be interested in potential partnerships to amplify our shared mission? I don't know.
Uh,
To be honest, I don't know what Generation Zion is.
okay. I'm not very familiar with them either, to be honest with you, but at least at Passages, I'm always, willing to explore potential new partnerships with organizations that are pro-Israel and supportive of the Jewish people. If we can find, like-minded causes and values, I'm all for it. But yeah, to your point, I'm not very familiar with them, so I can't really speak to them specifically. But I'm always looking to, grow our um, with the organizations to work with and to partner with in the future. So I'm open, open to anything.
Do you, just out of curiosity, do you go to Judea and Samaria?
No, do not believe so.
Okay, I can understand that. It's
Yeah.
um, I used to live in Gush Etzion, in about half an hour south of Jerusalem, and it was halfway to Hebron,
Mhm.
and it was pretty interesting at times. And I was scared of Samaria. Uh,
Mhm.
weird things happen there, not
Mm.
good things. So there is that. It's kind of funny. It can, like, I live in the Golan. People are like, I live, I think it's 12 kilometers from maybe it's 12 kilometers, either 12 or 20 kilometers from Syria. And
Wow.
people, well, yeah, right. You're like, wow. And I'm like, we had a couple rough months where we were getting rockets quite a bit, a couple times a week. Um, and we had a few rockets land inside the city. But I'm in the eastern Golan, and there's a
Okay.
big difference between, like, I live here. I'm 40 minutes away from Tzfat. Tzfat got pounded. 40 minutes I'm away from Kiryat Shmona. Kiryat Shmona, I don't know how they're going to put the city back together.
Hmm.
Okay, it's that close, but it makes that much of a difference. Um,
Yeah.
Israel's that small, and it's that concentrated. It's really it's a super concentrated experience in so many ways.
How
Um,
long has it been since you guys last had a rocket attack in your
oh,
town?
it's been months, thank God. Well, when Syria fell,
Hmm.
it's kind of like they were the best times to the worst times. When Syria fell, that was the end of it all.
Hmm.
Also, Hezbollah got pounded really hard and really early on.
Mhm.
And so it's been at least 3 months since we saw a rocket.
Well,
Um,
thank goodness.
yeah, yeah. I was doing this one interview, and right in the middle of the interview, rockets started falling, and I'm like, sorry, gotta go. Um, and it's like when they say, "Oh, you have 2 minutes," I don't have 2 minutes to run. When we're getting hit by rockets, usually the rockets land, if you have 5 seconds until the sirens, you're fortunate, because usually they came at the same time.
Wow.
We're that close. So yeah, we're just a couple miles away from Majel Shams, where they had all the children killed playing
Hmm.
soccer, um,
Terrible.
which really hurt us hard.
Yeah.
Okay, anti-Semitism is rising on campuses. Oh, this is actually a very difficult question. How do you prepare Christian students to be strong advocates for Israel? We were talking before. This is really the time. Christians have never had to learn how to advocate for Israel.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing, I mean, advocating for Israel is a nice way of putting advocating for Jews and standing up against what amounts to Nazism.
Mhm.
And I mean, how do you prepare someone to do that?
Well, yeah, it's a challenge, like to your point. But one thing we need that we're focused on at Passages is educating young Christian students um, to experience once they go to Israel to experience the to grow in their faith and their walk with Christ, but then understand the the roots of their faith and why as Christians we should be supportive of Israel and the Jewish people and having that experience and when they come back to their college and their community, and they're, educated with the facts and can speak to how the situation is on the ground. The nonsense that they'll hear from whether it's radical left-wing professors or other colleagues, they can push back and say, Actually, you're wrong about this. This is how it really is, and this is why we should be supportive of Israel." And and part of it also too is I think there's a lack of historical context in a sense that a lot of younger students nowadays they don't realize that Israel has been through several wars where they've faced annihilation and they've had to, thank goodness they've won and survived. And but they students nowadays are just they think that Israel is some kind of an apartheid state and is they're the and they're the Goliath and the David versus Goliath, the Hamas and the Palestinians, and it's just r ridiculous. But so educating students and making sure that they get information that's, accurate, factual, and it's not, um, you know, pro-Hamas Palestinian propaganda that they're seeing on TikTok or social media is essential. And once to your point, once kids go to Israel and they can see it for themselves, it really is life-changing, and they become the change they have when they return home is profound. And we're just it's inspiring to see. We want to get more students over there to come back and speak out in defense of Israel and the Jewish people. And we're excited to get our trips up and running again this year to making that vision a reality, going forward.
I'm going to do something that interviewers absolutely should not do. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
contradict you or disagree with you.
All right.
Okay. Yes, facts are very important. And when you really start learning the facts, it's kind of ridiculous because, on what level do you want to argue the facts? Israel has a historical right to the land. The last 100 years of Israel history has shown that we have so much, so many reasons to be here. The Palestinians are kind of like a made-up people, that they're not even from here. I mean, there's so many ways you could. But I don't debate people anymore. I'm not
Mhm.
very. I don't have the heart for it because the debate is no longer fact based. People are no longer debating the facts. It's really it comes from the heart and from the soul. So I think these faith-based advocates for Israel have got way more in their favor than people who know all the facts. They may not be the experts on Israeli history, but their faith in the land of Israel, their faith in the Bible, even if the person doesn't want to argue on the level of the Bible,
Mhm.
that faith is the biggest club you can wield. It's really because they don't argue facts anymore. They're making it up as they go along, and
No, you're
it's
absolutely having that strong faith foundation is the most important thing. You're absolutely right. And
for
once
advocacy. Yeah,
yeah, if they have that, then it's a definitely a good starting point for sure.
yeah. I remember Alan Dershowitz used to always argue with people about Israel and arguing for the right of Israel to exist. And I'm like, I don't want to go there. If you're arguing with that, then you've already lost. Do we love Israel? Do we believe in Israel? Is Israel an essential part of my soul? If it is, then that other person is going to shut up. Okay. President Trump's return to office has brought bold new initiatives regarding Gaza, including proposals for population transfers. How do you see these developments affecting Christian engagement with Israel?
Well, for one, we're a non-partisan organization, so we kind of stay out of the policy and
Okay.
that kind of discussion. But um, but yeah, no, we're focused. Passages is really focused on just this year ahead, getting our trips back to normal. Um, our students are excited to get back, and it's gonna be an exciting year. And I think the past year has been especially challenging seeing what's arisen on college campuses post October 7th. But some of the policy changes that the Trump administration has enacted already in that regard are positive, and we're grateful for those. But in general, we tend to steer away from
Okay.
politics. So yeah.
I don't.
I know.
I lean into that. Okay. And to be really honest, I think it's really important, um, not necessarily to be political, but to understand that the basis of the politics is really it's based in faith or anti-faith.
Mhm.
And I think there was a general consensus among people, that there's an expression in Hasidic Judaism that you have to eat the pork until the grease runs down your beard. You have to really jump into the sin, whole hog, and then you get sick of it, and then you say, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going back to God. And I think that's kind of what happened with the American people. And I
Mhm.
think there is a movement towards faith, towards the Bible, towards the God of Israel. I'm not talking about Judaism, the God of Israel, the God that you read about in the Bible.
Mhm.
Jesus was running around Israel. There's a reason for that. And I'm,
Mhm.
I'm seeing people turning back to that. And that's where the conflict really is. There's a portion of American society that doesn't want that to happen. And you can say what you want about Trump's personal faith, but the fact is he's surrounded himself by people of many faiths,
Mhm.
and people who believe in family, believe in God, and it's really a movement. And I think it's starting to happen now. And the people who you're bringing on these trips, the college age, it's like it is happening, and they're going to make it happen. So this
Mhm.
is a very powerful and special time, I think.
Mhm.
Anyway, Zach, is there anything else you want to say? I don't want to. You've been so good. Just I don't wanna,
No, thank you for your time today. Yeah, I think it was great. But yeah, like I said, we tend to steer away from the politicals, politics. But I'll let you and Ashley kind of work that out. It's up to
yeah,
you.
I don't steer away from the political.
I know.
I don't debate, but I mean, and also I'll tell you, Israel in general, um, for the most part, we were very politically divided the day before October 7th.
Hmm.
And it's not a game here. And a lot of people, I'm waiting, we're coming up on elections, even especially in Israel, perhaps, the faith has political implications.
Hmm.
The IDF is becoming, people who are secular in personal life go to the IDF and start becoming more faithful. It's an interesting transformation that's happening in Israel. So people who come, I think, will be seeing something very special happening.
I'm
Anyways,
excited to
Zach.
get back there. Be there in
Oh
March.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
And if you ever come up north, I'll go out of my way to see you. Katsrina's actually it's if you come up to the Golan, it's the only place where you're going to find lunch. Okay,
okay.
it's the place where they have all the restaurants and the pizza parlors and the falafel stands. Other than that, it's just little settlements. But
All right.
so people will
I'll
come
make
up
a note
here.
of that. I'll make a note of that for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. And they have a big parking lot for buses. All the
Okay.
tour guides know it. All the tour guides know it.
Awesome.
And if you come up and you can just go to Tiberias, I'll come down and meet you there.
Okay.
Love to shake your hand and verify that you're real.
No, no. Likewise, likewise. I'll shoot you a note. I'm gonna be there. I think I get there the 19th, and I'm there through the 31st. But I'll let you know when we're up that way. So,
Fantastic, fantastic.
all right.
Thanks so much, Zach. Thank you
Thank you.
all. Be
All
blessed
right.
from Israel. That's the way this works. You
All right.
bless us, we bless you.